keep going and talking about these. Either they are new topics or they are continuations on what we've already discussed. And I feel there's a lot of meat on this bone. That's pretty cool. Eldar?
No, Sisters of Battle.
Okay. Xana should see those. All right. Before we begin, I want to say thank you for those that you're watching. Right now, i.e., there's nobody in the channel chats or watching or whatever, and that's quite okay because this is to be saved and used later. So hopefully somebody that's looking for it will find us to be at least informative and entertaining. Jade, how are you tonight, sir?
Yes, sir. Doing all right. Things could always be better, but things could also be far worse.
Far worse. They could be. We could be glowing from the mistake at Clinton nuclear power plant. Yes. Jade, when it comes to post-apocalyptic, just a simple sentence. What comes to your mind initially?
For post-apocalyptic, desolation and uncertainty with maybe a glimmer of hope.
Okay. Next in our panel, counterclockwise, is our friend from the Great White North, the Crafting Gamer. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm good.
Excellent. He's putting together some Sisters of Battle. Whenever you hear of a post-apocalyptic game being put together, what is the first thoughts that hit your mind, sir?
Honestly, the first real experience I had with post-apocalypsis was with the Fallout game, so it tends to be Fallout.
Okay. Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout Tactics.
Fallout 3.
Okay. Did you ever play Fallouts 1 and 2?
I have tried. I have a hard time getting the system to make sense to me.
The RP system, the mechanics behind it, or the
mechanics. The VAT system got me killed 3 times in a row because I couldn't hit anything, despite the fact I specialized in guns. I just kept missing, and 3 deaths in a row kept missing. So I was like, okay, I'm done.
Guy, were you wanting to say something?
No.
I thought you raised your hand for a second. I'm sorry.
No, my fingers hurt. That's why I'm flexing them.
Okay. Kai, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm here. I'm alive.
I appreciate that. Knowing your schedule, you have no. I can't thank you enough for this. When I be independently wealthy, I'll be able to send you coffee at my whim and desire.
That'd be wonderful.
Yes, it would. For both of us. When you think of post-apocalyptic, what comes to mind?
The glorious breakdown of the state and the current socio-political order. The complete collapse of everything that we know, and a wonderful destruction of the status quo without any hope of it coming back.
I have to say that it's kind of something to look forward to. I mean, this world here has kind of gotten to the point where it's like, all right, well, it's definitely not what I was expecting to live in, and it's such a far cry from the reality we expected in our 20s and 30s that looking forward to my 50s is maybe this will be my last decade. Let's see how much bacon I can eat. I have to say that sounds actually kind of relaxing, but until that day happens, I mean, between here and there, I really would like it if we could at least impart to people you are leaving the place you're at and coming into an area where an armed society is a polite society. Please treat everyone as well off as yourself. And just go with that. And hopefully people understand that like probably diplomacy is going to be the best route to go. Maybe not. Maybe they won't, but I'll be hopeful. Like, yeah, you probably have a few extra 45s or pistolas on you, maybe a couple long guns, but you're going into a new zone and you want to at least be friendly with people until you hit that area that says no trespass. It goes up to the top of the ridge and there's a couple bodies already there. They've been shot, they were sniped out of existence, and they're just laying there now collecting flies and other carrion are in the area waiting for you to leave so they can eat it. I like the idea of an armed society as a polite society. I really do. Don't think I'll make it very far in the post-apocalypse America, though.
Nope.
I know I wouldn't.
So, Jade, if you have a couple questions, if you want to start with one, I mean, I figure we'll each do a question. I kind of did one with hellos and salutations. If you want to throw a question up there, and we could start with that
sure.
and just go around the panel here because I think there's a lot of meat on the bone for post-apocalypse.
Sure. So I guess the first thing to say about that is, in a post-apocalyptic setting, the theme of survival, I would believe, at the very least, is or should be central or very crucial to the idea of the game and the idea of where the players are going and what the player characters are doing. Like, survival should be at the top of their list of things they need to look out for. So how do you incorporate survival mechanics into the game besides just hand waving a dice roll? Do you ever make resource management or scavenging or even like daily challenges of the harsh environment integral to the experience of the play? And if so, how do you and your players enjoy it? And how do they track it, if at all possible?
You want me to start that one off?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
When we first started this campaign that I'm running for my high-level group 4 years ago, I was tracking food and water expenditures, and because they got ran out of town by hobgoblins, and there's 6 people playing, 6 people that were waiting for me to feed them a plot hook they liked. And I was like, after 3 plot hooks and you didn't bite any of them, fine, you all get attacked. And what I did was I just started grabbing some little cubes out of my board game collection. I started throwing the cubes in, and I started figuring that basically in an emergency situation, you could probably exist on 1/2 gallon of water a day in a temperate environment with adequate amounts of moisture. Your body, after a week, will start having negatives to it, but I'll give you, because it's Pathfinder, I'll give you the ability to half gallon of water a day probably is not ideal. Like, you're going to be dehydrated pretty fast in the real world, and like Illinois, if you're going through a safe zone with no radiation and only half gallon of water a day. But I'm assuming that you're going along with that half gallon of water you have in a barrel. You also have like creek beds and streams and other little places you're refilling and trying to do stuff. I'm not going to track all that. That's a level of resource management I don't want. So, like, if somebody says, I'm going to do a survival check, and in my new system, they do a 50% or they roll a 10 or better in Pathfinder, I would say you find enough water to cure your thirst. Maybe 4 ounces, maybe 8 ounces, but you find enough to cure your immediate thirst. And maybe a couple of berries, too, while you're at it. Or maybe you found some edible tree bark, because, it's always funny whenever you see the hot yoga class advert on the web, where there's the hot yoga, and please don't eat any onions before hot yoga, and we'll need you to be naked and be able to fold and unfold your genitalia before hot yoga, and afterwards we'll have tree bark and a gallon of water for you, and you can snack on that and hydrate back up. I'll show you this meme here in a bit, but it's funny because 2 hours of hot yoga requires you to have a gallon of water. It's just the same as if you have a 2 hour sports massage. You need to have water hydrate your body because some odd reason all that stuff in your body just released all the toxins and now you have to flush. Well, I'm thinking maybe something like that might happen on a severe hike where you're having to scale the rocks, having to go through rough terrain. Your body's doing stuff that you're not used to. Maybe you blew your climb check, so you skidded down like 50 feet, took a few points of damage, and over the next few days, like you're going to need more water than what you usually do. And I would expect people to be playing it safe, like we're going to camp out by this creek bed where we found game, and we're going to try to stick around here and set some traps for the local wildlife and let Bob heal up while the 5 of us are on guard duty. But I think water expenditure, like a half gallon a day for a week before you start really suffering negative penalties, I think that's pretty reasonable. I do. If you're in like a southern climate with not a lot of arid climate, but a very humid climate like what I have here, if you're doing 100-degree days for like any period of time, you need a gallon of water a day minimum. Now, in an RPG like Pathfinder, Create Water gives you 4 gallons of water per level up to like 16 gallons. And isn't that like a 0 level spell? So really,
I think so.
Really, Pathfinder's authors did not want you to play a survival game at all. They wanted you to play a game where everybody sat around, played Kumbaya, and like they lived happily ever after, which is absolutely not the game I want to run. So I don't use that as a 0 level spell in those type of games. That's a 1st level spell. You need to burn elements and resources, and you need to have some expenditure, some sacrifice has to be made for you to cast it. So I feel that Pathfinder does a poor job of resource management, although there is an equipment chapter which shows you how much wheat costs, how much wheat you get for your money, how much meat you can expect, how much does a cow cost on average. And it's a very poorly written chapter because it does not go into inflation. It does not go into like the reality of the markets. It does not cope very well. And you could have a guy like Kai help you in the background with your game economy, and it would work a lot better. That's why we send you coffee, sir.
Oh no, it will not only work better, Kai will make an economy for you that'll make you realize this might work better as an economy game because you're like, everything works. It all works in unison.
So I'm pretty optimistic about running a survival type game in the Pathfinder-esque engine, but I just refuse to use a lot of the things that are commonly in the tropes of the Pathfinder Core rulebook. I'll put those in the pins for the Discord whenever we have to do that. And that works for about 3 levels. After level 4, you don't really run a survival game because characters have the ability to at least conjure their flavorless meat product that they can chew on, and it will provide them sustenance to do things and function with, and they won't like bulk up with it, but they can at least get to tomorrow. And that's what the joy of Pathfinder is. If you don't want to run a survival game, Pathfinder's great. Or a good economic game.
Okay. Yeah. What about you, Kai? With the idea of survival, being forefront for post-apocalyptic situations, like, do you incorporate survival mechanics into those situations, or do you just hand wave it with a dice roll?
Honestly, with enough ways of of water creation. I don't worry about the water part, but I do worry about food. Food's important, and I am happy to. I care more about where you're going to sleep at night because of hypothermia, bugs, and other things that are going to be bitey, crawly annoyances that are going to make you miserable. I mean, sure, and people can sleep in holes all day long and be fine. They be miserable, grouchy, and adventurers don't have. Create water's nice. There's no create coffee, and and your trail rations don't include powdered coffee in your or teas in your bag. So, getting up and moving each day, trying to find that motivation and energy when you didn't sleep well because you were sleeping on the ground, getting eaten by bugs all night long, and it's cold, it's miserable, and all you have is a blanket. Because how many players buy the tent, buy the sleeping roll, buy the blankets, and buy enough things so they're actually comfortable at night? None. I've looked at so many character sheets and gone, so how do you sleep at night? And they look at you like, what do you mean? How do I sleep at night? Yeah, when you're out in the field, how are you sleeping? And they all look at you like, I don't know. And I'm like, did you buy enough? I was like, the weather's going to be cold tonight. It's rainy. Did you buy a poncho? No, I didn't. Did you buy all this? No, I didn't. I didn't have the weight. I'm just gonna roll my coat and up, and put it under my head as a pillow. So how are you staying warm at night? And then you just hear that sound, and then you get to go, all right, none of you got a good night's. None of you, except for that one player who bought the tent and all that stuff. None of you got to have a good night's sleep last night. And then you start rolling on that. And then because if you're playing post-apocalyptic and survival, you get to watch players go, I go and buy more. I go and buy it. There is no one to buy it from. This is what you have on you. Well, I'm going to go loot dead bodies so you can make some tattered little thing of cloth and out. Go ahead, and then watch them try to scavenge. At that point, it becomes scavenging up not just food, and now you're on like day 3, day 4 of being cold, miserable, wet. You've had one guy who could start a fire, and you've been huddling next to that. And maybe you're sleeping in the back of the beaten up old car that you've managed to keep running, or you're sleeping in some old ruins, and you're just miserably just enduring it. And yeah, it's not just simply a simple dice roll. Like, I'm happy to go ahead, make your survival check to go find enough food, enough bugs and bark and other things to eat. You're just not happy. You're not rested. You're not well fed. You're just you're going to survive, but not prosper. You're not going to enjoy it. And yeah, I know that Bruce has referred to him as a misery simulator, and yeah, I am happy to engage in misery simulation, because I want people to realize that you can't just skimp on all the important shit to survive. And I want my players to realize that wagon, that Deuce and a half you salvaged, that's now carrying all your shit, is the most important thing in the entire universe. And you will fight anybody to keep that car running, that truck running, those horses fed, and that wagon and that wagon with wheels. You will look at anybody who looks at your wagon as though they're terrorists and or the enemy, because they're desperate and want shelter and want to have a way to haul shit. And I like that point when I push players to realize that this four-wheeled contraption of whatever tech base we're running in is the most important, valuable thing in the world, and they will murder people for it, because I have pushed them to that level of, are you looking at my alcohol still? Are you looking at my truck? Yes, die. Why are you looking at it? Because it looks nice. Do you want it? It would be turn around and run away right now. Do not just and pushing people to that desperate level because there's nothing else out there, and you're watching players scavenge for every little bit because this is after the end of the world. Things haven't stabilized yet. You need this. You can't lose it. You're never going to find another one like it. And if it breaks down, you're screwed. What do you do? What, walk around like another refugee carrying everything you've got in your back? At which point you look at the wizard character, that one player who dumps stat strength and goes, "What are you going to do? Carry what little I have, like a complete weak-limbed noodle? And why? Because I can't carry it. I can hope that the very exhausted, tired, beaten up guy with high strength can still carry all my shit while I start leveling on penalties for being tired. And you're all just going to eventually die out here because you're going to walk into a radiation field and you won't even care anymore. Like, fuck it. This is how I die in the bottom of a hole. It's okay. It's over. And I'm like, that's what I want. That's the ultimate point I want, is that point when I watch players just I'd resign from living, and that's what you're ultimately doing at this point. So yeah, those are my mechanics I use for survival.
Okay. And then over to the crafting gamer. So when you do your so was it that you played in Post-Apocalyptic or you ran Post-Apocalyptic?
Bit of both.
Okay. Do you remember any emphasis on survival during gameplay, either as the game master or as a player?
Yes.
How much of that took center stage?
Well, as the player, not much. My GM just did not like doing that. It was too much effort as far as he was concerned. It's like, then what's the point of the post-apocalypse? But as GM myself, I was like, I made sure my players didn't necessarily have to track every little thing, but I made sure they realized this was the Sorry about that. I made sure they realized this was the post-apocalypse, and I emphasized making sure you had enough supplies. Because something that I did kind of like what Kai did, but I added an extra layer onto that, which is you never know. Well, he might have too, but to add onto this, so onto his thing is how I should put that. Add onto his. You never know what will be edible, what will be drinkable, for God knows whatever reason in the post-apocalypse. You're muted, Kai.
That's the survival check. It's too bad, very bad.
Yeah, that is true. But I always like to emphasize that because this is the post-apocalypse, you never know what you're actually going to be able to eat or not eat, or drink or not drink. And supplies will always be potentially scarce if you don't look hard enough, if you're not careful.
Okay. As for me on this, the one time I did post-apocalyptic survival, it was a game between two worlds. One world, things went right. The other world, things went wrong. I talked about it last time. In the world that went wrong, there is so much desolation that occurred that even natural wildlife has kind of died out in a lot of areas. So when my players got to the frozen wastes to look for, the potential for the, strongest military power of the world to, seek aid from them, and they discovered that it was nothing but a desolate, snow-covered wasteland, they struggled to find food. I put in basically a percentile roll or percentile number rather, that there is this much, forageable food either through hunting or forageables or whatever vegetation's in the area. Including if they wanted to go try to take down an elk. That wasn't going to be a combat roll. That was going to be a survival roll. But it was a percentage chance that they would even run into it to begin with. They were out in the middle of nowhere, frozen land. They didn't see tracks for any type of living creature for miles on end.
My bad.
So, I was asking them, like, how many rations do you have, days worth of rations? And how are you going to ration those rations further? I'll need to know. So at the end of every day of exploration, I would give them a con roll, but I was tracking a penalty number based on what they said. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to take half rations today. Okay, I'm going to apply a -2 to the con roll, on my side of the table. So when they roll it, they think they're doing all right, and I'm applying the negatives because half rations, you can only survive so long on half rations. You can survive a long time, but you're not going to have the strength to do a hell of a lot.
No.
So after like a week of half rations, they depleted a lot of their resources, just traveling. And they were finding some food along the way, some forageables, but they were starting to hit exhaustion levels like exhaustion and what was the other one, the worst one, or is exhaustion the worst?
Staggered is the worst, I think.
Yeah, stagger's the worst. You're right. So there's like 3 levels to exhaustion, and they were starting to get
exhausted.
Yeah, fatigued. Exactly that. So they were starting to get fatigued after just 1 week of half rations and traveling. Eventually, they finally made it to a facility that still had canned food in it from the wartime, and they didn't care about expiration dates at that point. If it was canned, it was good enough to eat. I was like, you know what? Yeah. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be nice. I'm not going to roll for bacteria or spoilage. I'll be nice. They finally get a good meal. It may not be a tasty meal, but it's a meal, and they can start taking off some of those exhaustion and fatigue points. They eventually made it to their destination, but that's how I did it. Is I was looking at constitution rolls at the end of every day. If they didn't go hunting at all and they were just on rations, it was a con roll. And based on previous data I already had, I was subtracting from their con roll on, without telling them that I was subtracting it. So, a person might go, oh yeah, I made a 20. Okay, well, a 20 is actually going to be a 16 for you because, you've been hungry for so damn long and you can't sleep in the damn cold, So, eventually they caught on to what was happening. They're like, yeah, we can't keep this pace, can we? I'm like, that's up to you. Like, I'm not going to tell you can't keep the pace. That's up to you. What do you guys want to do? I'm like, okay, let's trek back to our last location that had some food in it and devise a plan. Maybe there's something we missed. Turns out, yeah, they missed an entire storage room that had, not just food supplies, but had ammunition supplies, camp supplies, the military, basically military survival supplies that they completely missed because they didn't go looking in every room. So, and that's how I handled it.
Oh, Jade, I got to ask you, what's your favorite system to run for things like that? Do you want to run like ICRPG, or do you want to run like something super fucking complex like Rollmaster or Pathfinder or something?
When I did that campaign, it was actually a blend of 3.5 and Pathfinder. It was kind of like a 3.75. And I was using the gunslinger out of that, but I had made a bunch of my own archetypes for it, including like soldier, rifle master, so on and so forth, and engineer. I still believe to this day somebody got a hold of my Google Drive and made the engineer in Starfinder based off my Pathfinder designed engineer. Either way, I do trust Google enough that
I had once.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have the same ideas, but anyway, no. As far as like what system would I run that in, I think it depends on the group I'm running game for, like right now, I'm very much into the index card RPG. And there are a lot of really great mods out there in the community for index card that I could pick up one of those mods. Like there's, for example, there is travel as challenge as a mod that I could use. I could have them track, dice worth of supply, and every time they roll a one on the die, they lose, or the die type drops down. And when they can't use supply for travel, they're out of supplies, and they can't roll supplies until they resupply. And then the longer you go without supplies, the more penalties you start taking, so on and so forth. So I would consider ICRPG. Like I said, I've done it with D&D 3.5 and Pathfinder 1E. Other game systems I would consider running a survival post-apocalyptic in would probably be something maybe like Boot Hill, or maybe another really great one. Maybe Easy D6 would have something like that. That I could probably move over from index card, or vice versa. I mean, there's some really great systems out there that would do that, though. I think some of them have it built in already.
Yeah, I actually prefer game systems that do more of that than more of the metropolitan stuff like what Pathfinder does. No offense to Pathfinder, it's a fine system, but it just it automates too many things.
Mhm.
You have to have a guy behind the scenes of it, like, and I'm trying not to suck Kai's dick here, but you have to have a guy behind the scenes like Kai to kind of fix the problems from month to month stuff, or your background information for the kingdom. If you do Kingdom Maker, if you do an economy game, you have to basically like let Kai go, and then after he's done a few months, he's like, here's how it works, here's what I've been doing, here's the results we got, and here's why these items here sell so well in your crappy campaign. Okay, cool, thanks. And I love having him do that, and he gets joy out of it. And one of these days, he's going to write a book, or he's going to unlock a Google Drive document, and he's going to put it on DTRPG, and he's going to make a few dollars.
I'm already working on it. I stole it from work. It's a free notebook they gave us as a Christmas gift. It's a nice book, but it's my notebook. I write weird stuff in now.
I'll have to get you something. If you want to write things down, Kai, I'll have to get you only the very best. Only the very best notebooks for Kai. Hold on, let me see if they still have them available.
It's waterproof. I could beat the crap out of this at work.
No, the first thing I think of when Bruce says the best notebooks for Kai is some nice lambskin notebooks.
I would think lambskin would be pretty much at the top tier. Let's see.
Well, I'm not like versed deeply in it, but I did a little research at one point because I still have a very wide interest, and for a little while I looked into making my own books. Sorry, completely off subject there.
You're good. Jade, did you get all the answers you wanted, sir?
Yeah, I mean, it was more of just a generic, like, how do you handle survival? So I think that was pretty well laid out.
Okay. Crafting Gamer, do you have any questions that you want to share with us for, like, what you would want to see in a post-apocalyptic game?
Well, a question I was thinking about is, how would you take a game that you would say isn't immediately meant for post-apocalypse, but you believe it's still good enough, so you use it? That's a bad wording. How do you take a system that is not meant for post-apocalypse, but you believe is still usable for it, and how do you tweak it so you can?
Jade, do you want to throw that one up? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So D&D 3.5 was not meant for post-apocalypse. It was meant for fantasy role play. It was meant for fantasy RPG. It wasn't really meant to handle the nuances of, oh well, now everything's gone to hell, time to survive. So I think by adding in the mechanics of degrading health and not being able to restore your health, because if you don't have food, you can't restore health. So if you lose hit points along the way, you start not being able to recover hit points. I think it was if you're fatigued and you go to bed that night, you recover. I think it was half the normal hit points that you would normally recover. Same with my spells, because I also wasn't using the Vancian magic spells. I wasn't using spell slots. I was using mana points or MP. And they would only regenerate a certain number of mana every day. Because they were fatigued. They couldn't keep their mind. They couldn't collect their thoughts and focus because they were either too hungry, too tired, on edge at all times because they knew the demons were out there hunting them. There's always this sense of paranoia. So having a mechanic, actually making a mechanic for that, I think is where I really excelled at, because the mechanic was fairly simple. Like if you have one level of fatigue, you recover half the normal hit points and half the number of spell points. If you have exhaustion, you can only regain 1/4 normal hit points and 1/4 of any mana points that were used, and you lose one hit die or one mana die of either per day at the end of the day if you're exhausted. So you don't start with the full number on the next day at all. And that continues until you hit staggered, where you just cannot move, at which point you reduce your maximum HP and MP for the day by 3 dice worth of either. So if your hit die is a D10, you roll 3d10, and that's how many fewer hit points you have to start the day with. Same thing with the mana. If you're rolling a d6 for mana because you're a spontaneous caster, you roll 3d6 and you start with that many fewer mana points at the beginning of every day while you're at staggered. And it was meant to basically display the fact that because you're so fatigued from hunger, from sleep deprivation, from constant worry of being discovered, you can't focus your body. You can't heal your body like it needs to be. It's malnutrition. It's constant stress, and those things add up over time. Naturally, they just add up over time. So how do I mimic that in a game setting? Well, that's what I did. That's basically how I derived my mechanic. Is what is it like in the real life, and how can I translate that to something where survival is everything, and you need to be well fed. You need to be, or at least moderately well fed, to be able to continue hiking and continue exploring in such a desolate area.
Okay.
For me, when I run a game that's not really good for this sort of thing, what I like to do, I like to just kind of have like a handful of just some sort of token, maybe cubes from a board game or something to represent food. Some represent water. Power Grid is actually one of my favorite games to play, but nobody wants to play that because who wants to play Jewish money simulator with the electrical grid? And a lot of people are like, "That's just racist." I'm like, "It whatever. Your feelings don't matter. This is a great game, and it's a very good description of how your ability to function in 21st century America or Western civilization goes really well, because You have the markets, which are reflected by coal and oil, the trash market, which at the time it was made, trash was becoming a big thing for power plants to use, and nuclear, and nuclear. Well, you have those four sources, but like as things are bought up throughout the entire campaign, like if you have too many coal plants in use, coal is costing you a lot of fucking money. And so you have to go into like either oil or trash. And as things aren't like they're put to the market, like it gets cheaper to buy them. The commodity market in that game is great. So I just use the little tokens they give you because you have like little piles for gold, little black barrels for oil, or yellow cubes for trash, and then these red octagonal cylinders for nuclear rods. Nuclear rods. And I would use that as just like my little mini game I was playing behind the scenes. And I would actually use a DM screen for this because I don't want the players to see how fucked they are. But whenever I describe people like levels of infection, like your skin doesn't look the same like it used to. Actually, you've got a more greenish tint to you. You would look like a Vulcan from the 1960s original series. Your skin's really bad. And people like don't understand that. But whenever you use these RPGs, like if you talk in mechanic terms, it's very easy for them to game the system. But if you talk in terms of like prose, you know, and like you're describing things, you've got your thesaurus next to you, your dictionaries next to you, you've got the ability to properly diagnose something just through words. If people have any smarts, they can tell what's going on. But you get those players that they've not stepped out of their house for 15 years before your campaign, and they're not used to it. Like, no, I just want to spam X so I can get through this combat. You're not doing that. We have to survive. This is a survival game more than it is a combat engine. And you have to get the players on the same page as you as the DM. Otherwise, the players are going to be trying to play a game where like, hey, we're going to go find other bandits and steal their stuff. Before they get to the bandit lair, they're going to die because they ran out of food or they ran out of like oil in their car. They don't have the proper repair materials to fix their MK Deuce, you know, or their Ma Deuce. And that's just how the games are. It sucks, but you have to play a kind of a different game with them. If you're used to 3.5 or 3.x, there's a lot of times where you're describing how things are going, and players are looking for answers in the book, or they're trying to figure out like with an online document, like you might not see their faces because they're on screen. You can't see their face, so they're looking in their phone or on a database. Like, how do I win? But the main thing is that when you are running a game, post-apocalyptic more than anything else, I think you have to be more descriptive because the situation at hand is more tense. And whatever you're using, like it's better for the players that they know how to answer questions and roll with the punches than if any other thing. And I think we have a fifth man in our party. Connell.
Hey, you're alive.
Hey, there he is.
Hey.
Hello.
Good to
Didn't
see
you just get over that?
Yeah, and
Okay.
well, no, it's not because of that. It was something genetic, but yeah, I see your point.
Okay.
Okay, dickhead.
Hey. It's my first one in a while. Leave me alone.
Connell, I'm going to ask you something real quick. So I need you to be able to format an answer. If I say we're doing a post-apocalyptic RPG, what comes to mind?
Jade.
Jade?
Okay.
Well, you have to. There's a couple things you need to understand. First one is this is a magnificent cigar, by the way. We won't get into what kind it is, but it's a magnificent cigar. I am in the Peoria Heights at a cigar lounge, and it's quite lovely. Yes, the one you're thinking about, Kai.
Oh, it's a good one too.
Yeah. Second of all, holy shit, I love this place. Second, and going back to the whatever game, me and Jade's been friends for a long time, and Jade had this graphic novel. It is a post-block pop city, and there's these two guys sitting on a ledge, and there's a soldier from the other side walking central underneath them, and one of the guys drops
Oh,
a rock, and the other guy, you think you hit him? Thud. Yep. So with that in
that
mind,
I know the comic you're talking about. I still have it somewhere.
with that being in mind, a little under a decade ago, we were playing in Jade's world, and Jade was telling the story about the second. It was what after. It was basically the next part of a huge, multi-generational world that he's running, and it's Magnificento. I can't wait to get back there. Christmas needs to hurry up and get here. Where's my wardrobe so I can get back to this Narnia type place? So when I think of this style of gaming, I think of him because I've done a few other ones, but they never feel. I don't know if it's the DM or the setting. They just feel like lather, rinse, repeat, lather, rinse, repeat. With his, it was an actual struggle. And so when I think of this, I think of his campaign. It's one of the most highlighted campaigns I think of, not just because he's my best friend, just because of the world. I mean, me and this other gentleman that some of us know played Boondock Saints on a pit fiend. You know, the last scene where you have that mob boss on the ground, and we empty both of our guns into the guy, and of course the pit fiend, and it blows up when it dies. Me knowing this is a player, I'm like, fuck it. Me not knowing this is a character is even better. So I made my save. The other guy did not make his, unfortunately. But yeah, that's what I think of. And Kai, if you smoke cigars, let me know. Me and you might have to come up here. You could be my +1.
I don't, but I stopped in to see what it was like one day because I was wondering if you were going to like it.
No. Well, thank you.
I just didn't have a chance to tell you that it was really cool. So
yeah. I can't get Jay to smoke a cigar if Kai's life depended on it, so it is what it is.
I do believe you're talking about that comic that I've shared to the screen.
I have
Yes.
to zoom in on this.
I love that comic.
That is called Gone with the Blast Wave. It was a comic I discovered, years ago, years and years and years ago.
It updates twice a year.
Yep, anymore. But yeah, that is. I did draw a lot of inspiration from that comic for my my post-apocalyptic game world, where everything has gone to hell. So
I love the one where they pushed a tank off a building onto the yellow team.
yes,
There was a few times in Jade's campaign where the concept of the A team kind of popped in my mind. Can we fly a tank? And the answer to that is no.
No.
But it was definitely there. We'll dimension the door here, and we'll pop up here, and we'll just write it out.
Play the tank? Yeah, play a tank crew?
Yeah. I mean, in theory, if you put Featherfall on the tank, it might. I have no idea.
I would love.
Oh, it didn't let me do it.
I would love my players if they would want to actually have a tank. Yes.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So does that answer your question there, Bruce?
It does. I guess the next person that I get to ask a question is going to be Jade, because I allowed Jade to do the second question. You want to give him your question that you had for us, Jade?
Yeah. So, Connell, when you're running a game, let's say it's post-apocalyptic, or even if you're playing in a game that's post-apocalyptic, the general idea of trying to survive what happens after the apocalypse, it's typically a survival game, isn't it?
In most cases, high fantasy or modern type RPG, I would say so. It's point. It's not getting A through Z. Saving the princess. It's very much A to B to B to C type scenario.
Okay. So in a game where survival is at the forefront of everyone's mind and making it from point A to point B relatively safely, how much emphasis should there be on the survival aspect and mechanics of the game? This is the question I already asked everybody else, though. And is it something you would just hand wave with a dice roll to make it go away, or is it something you would actually focus on as a game master or as a player?
It depends on the table.
Okay.
The reason I say this is earlier in Bruce's campaign, when we were not stuck in a fucking mountain for 4 months, we would, be doing the hex crawl. And my character was set up a fishing line, jig line. And I would want that. I would push for stuff like that to be in my own players. Hey, guys, I'm going to have to step out for a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Is he streaming from that den guy?
Yes, he is.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. It's kind of cool they'd let him do that, but they might be like, hey, stop that.
Nah, they're pretty laid
Yeah,
back
could
that
be.
place.
Depends on
I don't know, I just
what
keep-
quiet corner he's in.
I just keep getting jealous that he's at a cigar lounge. I haven't been able to smoke cigars since they made me physically ill.
Don't take that personal. I can't smoke anything anymore because I turn into a coughing bastard. I thought I was strong. I thought I
Yeah.
was able to do stuff. Today I had to carry 15 bags of saccrete and concrete, 5 bags of concrete, 10 bags of sand. My bad. And by
Sweet.
the 13th bag, I'm realizing my lungs are not where they should be.
Oh, I know what
Speaking
you
of
mean.
concrete, I found a new and interesting way of taking care of a slime. The gelatinous cube, it's acidic, right?
Yes, it is.
So what would happen if you were to pour several bags of limestone dust onto a gelatinous cube? What would happen?
Absorb.
Okay. So limestone is basically mostly calcium carbonate, in a very compressed form. Wouldn't that counteract the acid and turn it into water
Yeah,
or solidify the slime?
I thought it would solidify the slime.
Mm-hmm. New building material. You pour limestone. You get dwarves who are quarrying in limestone. You take their dust, pour it on slimes, and suddenly you've got a free 5x5 or maybe 10x10x10 cube of stone that was once a slime.
That's a
Real
And when
question is,
rehydrated, it might.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Let's say
a
the real
giant
question would
Uh,
be is
Go ahead.
How strong is it?
yeah, exactly. Is it going to be just good for statues,
it-
or is it actually a good building material?
I don't know. Let the first war party come and try to break that wall down and realize that it was just an exterior shell on the slime, not actually solid throughout. No, I was just thinking about that because somebody had brought up in one of the other forums I'm in about gelatinous cubes and whatnot, and I think they said something about troll coal You don't get it wet because it like seals cracks in stone. I'm like, oh, okay, well, what about slime? You put slime into a crack, let it get wedged in there, and then you fill it over with limestone dust, and seal it away.
Well, interesting enough, Darkwing Duck asked a similar question. There's a character that's made entirely of water, and so they decided to put pudding mixture on him and stir him up with a automatic mixer.
No, geez, okay. I haven't thought
That was
about
on
that
Darkwing
show in
Duck?
a very long time.
Yes, that was on Darkwing Duck. I still have the VHS where that episode is on too.
You have a VHS player that works still? Holy shit!
No, unfortunately, I've been trying to find one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good luck with that.
You had only asked me that approximately 7 months ago because I threw away like 2 entire SUV fulls of VHS cassette players.
Oh man.
Are you
Wow.
fucking
Cleaned out.
serious?
We cleaned out my stepdad's place and I had his part of the house, and we found closets full of VHS cassette players and old DVD players.
Wow.
All because nobody makes them anymore. So in case one VHS cassette player breaks, I've got parts for it. And we looked at it and went, we don't own any more VHS cassette players, because he had the dual VHS cassette DVD burners. So that way you can make copies of all your stuff and backups of everything. And we were sitting here going, we sold off all of our stock. Why do we still have all this stuff? And our thought is, we can't throw it away. We had to wait for the open recycle day so we can and so it happened. And we just showed up with two SUVs full of these things, and then watch those poor guys who were in the recycling place look at us. I go, what the fuck is this? As CRT and machines and laserdisc players that would no longer work went into the freaking recycling bins. We're like, just take it. We don't care anymore. Just get rid of it all.
Part of me wants to cry.
Don't.
There's a part of me that loves the 1980s futurism.
It was mostly 90s crap.
Yeah. Like early 90s VCR tech is still pretty cool, but like finding a VCR tape from like my copy of RoboCop.
Mm-hmm.
It broke. I wore out the tape.
Yep.
And that's not the first time I've done that to a tape. Young Frankenstein, we broke that 2 times.
If any of those were still in the old-fashioned top load, machines would have kept it, because those were easy to fix and clean and maintain. But all of them were those crappy fucking front loads.
I get it. Front load was nice and it was new, but the top loads, I've not seen a top load machine for, it's 30 years now.
Uh-huh.
And worse yet, like I just realized, like I had some cassettes, and those are gone now because the tape got so brittle. I don't know if that's if that was futuristic thinking, like, hey, we're gonna make sure this has built-in obsolescence in it or not. I don't have any problems with my DVDs or CD-ROMs yet. I don't know if I will, because I don't expose them to like exterior forces like rain or acid or things like that. But I'm just kind of worried that at some point I'm going to find out those don't work.
At last estimate, assuming that you don't show them to heat temperatures, very extreme variations in humidity, they have an estimated lifespan of about 100 to 200 years, so you're fine. Maybe
Okay.
50 if you do something stupid with them, like sunlight. But that's if you believe the History Channel and their, you know, the day out, their day after if all the humans were gone series.
Life After People. One of my favorite series. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's really the idea itself is really cool.
Now, in like a new world, say like 20 years from now, after an apocalypse, how are the new people going to discover like the cities? How will Logan's Run function once they realize their domed city has no more power and they flood out of the city and that crappy mall they were living in, it goes away? Do they try to camp out in the woods? Does somebody know how to do camping gear? Nobody knows how to fucking tie together a tent, much less like grab some chlorine pills to fix the water or the water filtration. It's kind of interesting because that's something I would love to play through. You're 18 years, you're 15 years old, and your domed city has come to a cease. You're no longer going to die in 15 years, but you might die in 2 weeks because you don't know how nature works. Have you ever seen Logan's Run, Jake?
No, I have not seen Logan's Run. I have thought about something like what you're describing. One of the games I played, years and years ago, one of the things that actually got me into wanting to develop my own world was the game Chrono Trigger. It's for the Super Nintendo system. And the people in the far-flung future of that game, because it is a time travel game, the people of that far-flung future lived in dome cities as you're describing. But the power systems were starting to fail, and the people didn't know what was going to become of them. Like I'm one of those players for like video game RPGs. I go through and I read every dialogue of text for a lot of them, so I can get the full picture of what's going on in case I miss something. And that was one of the things that came up is like, well, we don't know what's going to happen to us now. The generators are gone. There is no power, flowing to any of our stuff anymore. Our hydroponics are gone. What do we do now? How do we move forward? In a wasteland. And that's always kind of, baffled me, or not necessarily baffled me, but has always kind of been on my mind. Like, what do people who don't know anything about survival do to survive after something like that?
So, I guess my answer, actually, I'll answer that real quick, but then I want to get to Kai's question. I think the best you could do is you're going to be throwing a bunch of ideas at the wall, and you're going to get real skinny before you get real fat again. I'll say that. I'll just say that because, like, there's a lot of people I know that they don't know shit for camping. If it wasn't for their parents taking them out camping on like weekend trips, and even nowadays, like my cousin's kids, like they're in their 20s, they couldn't rub two sticks together. They couldn't figure out how to, clean fish because that was just a skill that wasn't put upon them. They're girls, and so I see them going back. Like if God damn it, dark thought for family. Don't tell my cousin this, but if we have a nuclear apocalypse and like my cousin's kids survive, the daughters are going to have to go back to the world's first profession if their husbands don't make it out, make it with them. That's all I'm going to say. Because they don't have the skills, and a lot of young kids don't have the skills. A lot of Generation Y people don't know how to clean fish. They don't know how to use trot lines. They don't know how to do all sorts of things. And I think it's kind of sad. But what can you do?
Each.
That's about it. Have a guy like Kai in
I
your
mean-
pocket to where like, hey, this person needs to learn how to clean and catch bluegill and catfish. And then Kai goes to
I
his
mean,
library.
actually, I still have my Boy Scout handbook from when I was in the Boy Scouts, and it's one of the older ones, and it still has a lot of really great and useful knowledge about, survival and survival techniques, as well as things to do to, be ready to go just about anywhere.
So
I keep that thing on hand.
So I don't have a Boy Scout manual, but I had the book that I was thrown when I was a kid, and told this is what you're going to what you're going to keep on you at all times. And it is, I have 2 copies of it now. One is in my room at all times, and one in my go bag. It is the 1969 Survival, Evasion, and Escape Handbook from the Department of the Army. And I always have a copy of this nearby at all times. It's well used, well read. It is a field manual. It's fun. It tells you how to not kill yourself, and other fun things. But I was thrown a copy of this at a young age because I wasn't allowed to be in Boy Scouts. I was instead thrown a field manual and said, "This is what you're going to learn." So yeah, this is what I learned.
Pretty fucking good. I mean,
I know.
recognize
and
that.
actually,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that actually came up for me in a game I played last year. Unfortunately, the game didn't continue, but over on Kane's Kiln, he was running a game that was kind of like a Pulp Fiction, Indiana Jones like game for ICRPG. And
Yeah.
my character was the professor. He was the Indiana Jones professor type. He was skilled in field exploration, but he wasn't an expert in field exploration. He was an archaeologist first, and then an explorer second. Whereas Indy is a explorer first, archaeologist second. And I say that because of all the things he goes and does. But even Indiana Jones, in at least according to lore and to the actual books, he was a Boy Scout. He was in the at that time what was the Boy Scouts. So he also had like the manual and whatnot, the survival manual that you're given or you purchase to be part of that club. And when it came up in the game, this new fledgling archaeologist explorer is traveling with a group, and I don't know the first thing about survival. Like I need someone to teach me. I'm like, okay, here's my old manual on survival. Read through this. This is your starting point.
Yep.
And I said that in character because my character probably would have had one of those guides on him. It was very likely, like you don't go to the wilderness jungle or to a area without something. If you know anything about survival, you don't go any place without a manual on how to survive it, or at least without some kind of text telling you what is safe to eat at the very least. Because someone has already gone there, someone has already researched plant life, ahead of you, more than likely. So if you have that text, you reference it like it's the Bible.
Yep. I only got that book because I whined about wanting to be a Boy Scout, and then was told we don't have time and we can't afford to send you through it. Here, have some military surplus from before you were born. And I'm like, yay! Thanks. Maybe that might have been why I a bit on the weird ass side when it comes to just esoteric bullshit.
So, Guy, what question for us do you have?
I really didn't have, because honestly, hell's bells. I really, because honestly, we kind of hit most of what. Stupid arm. I really didn't think that hard about solution because honestly, I just kind of work off the cuff, and I assumed everybody else also kind of thinks that way. And really, I hadn't thought about questionnaires. Because I really didn't. Because honestly, we covered most of the topics that I usually hit on. Because I know when you mentioned Bruce about the idea of how would people find cities that are after the apocalypse, and I always kind of question that the Logan's Run, the system fails and nobody knows how to maintain it, so you go out to the world. Well, the question there is how long after the apocalypse are you typically going to be setting your game? Are you literally looking at the day after the bomb? Are you looking at 6 months after the robots start shooting everybody? Are you looking at 1 year and the zombies are still wandering through the streets? Or are we looking at 5-10 years later and you have your souped up Pontiac the Iron Trans Am and you're just darting across the countryside shooting at mad gangers because society's broken down? I mean, how far off are you going to be looking at running your game? Like how far after the apocalypse or the end of the world or that are you looking to run your game? Because I know if like Twilight 2000 is 1 year after, it picks up 1 year after the nuclear war happens, when finally the last fragments of the chain of command has collapsed and there's no central authority and everyone's confused because nothing works anymore. And you're playing some poor sapless schmuck trapped somewhere in Poland or Western Russia going, I want to go home. And you're trying to find your way back and you're hoping somebody is waiting for you to take you back across the Atlantic. Or what do you do?
I mean,
I know.
It doesn't even have to be after the bomb. It could also be like Bristol 1353 or 1354.
Yeah.
Black Plague comes to Bristol in 1350. Most of the population is gone. And what do the survivors do to pick up the pieces?
Right. Or similarly, you've been used to the stability of Rome. It's been there your entire existence. It's been there for as long as history has remembered it, for at least centuries. And now it's gone, or at least the Western Empire's gone. What do you do if you're still like in a fragment holding on to in Gaul? Like this is before Charlemagne reasserts the Western Empire in all but name and other things. So you're looking at and in a fantasy game, you'll get the exact same situation. Like we always play when you're playing fantasy, traditional high fantasy, you're after the end of the world pretty much. You're always in the shadow of a greater empire that's existed. Because after all, where else are these ancient dungeons filled with treasure and loot coming from? Where are these ancient liches coming from? They're from a fallen empire, which means something happened, and you're in the ruins of it, scraping together bits and pieces of lost knowledge. That's centuries after the bomb. So after the bomb or whatever caused the end of society, does anyone remember it? I mean, I guess that's my question for everyone: is how far after do you set it?
For me, it was 10 years. After, actually, it was 13 years after the events that should have unfolded. The way the events had unfolded in the pristine world. It was supposed to be 13 years after that turnkey moment where things could go one way or the other. So people, like, society had collapsed. The demon and devil invasion had occurred over the course of 13 years. So what's left? The holdouts are, and I think that actually might be another question, is what about the NPCs, the survivors of what was left? How do they interact, or like how do players interact with those NPCs, and how do those NPCs treat players who are outsiders to their group or their little holdouts? You know,
Yeah.
what are your NPC factions, and how are they towards outsiders?
Oh yeah. Because honestly, I could see that one being. Because see, 13 years, you're still. I mean, the average player might have been like 7 to 10 when the war. When the invasion happened, when the fall happened. I how
Mhm.
like it's so you're still. It's still what the world was once like is still living memory. So you could still think about what it was once like. It hasn't quite left. You're still in that first generation of the end, and that could be a societal. It still is a scar. It's a vibrant wound, a scar, and you might see people trying to either hide from the end or wanting, still dreaming of what it was like. Because like much like how we kind of dream of, it was nice once, before the plague years happened, and
Thanks, COVID.
I know the plague years, or the '90s were nice. That was 20 something years ago. I know, but it was nice. But before the planes hit, it was a nice world.
I was just talking about that the other day with somebody, and we're going to derail for a second. But it's 1999, and as much as you want to play Perfect Dark MP,
Y2K.
instead, you're getting 4 cheese pizzas from Domino's and a meat lovers to break up. So there's 5 pizzas. You got 6 friends coming over. You're loaded to the gills on Mountain Dew. You've got 4 liters, 4 3 liters of Mountain Dew, and 5 of your buddies are coming over for 007 GoldenEye multiplayer.
Yeah,
This is the best that life will get for you. You middle class plebe, you. This is it.
this is the
So many
pinnacle of
mines on the ceiling.
or with my friends in that year. We were all planning on having our New Year's party, which was we were hoping Y2K was going to happen. So we were big party watching TV, going, come on, come on, come on. Australia's the first one to get it. Maybe the nukes will fly when they hit when it hits midnight. Nope, no nukes. So we just watch it. We're watching the clock go across the world. We're going, come on, someone have a critical failure somewhere. We were all praying that when midnight hit the East Coast, like ABC, NBC, and CBS would just go black. Like one of those 3 channels was going to go black. We had 3 TVs on, hoping that one of them was going to go dark because somebody was an idiot. But then Y2K failed us, and we didn't have a catastrophic end of the world event. We are sad, but we were all drunk and having a party, so we didn't care.
Yeah, I had already run the tests in a computer lab at my school at that point to see what would happen with the Windows systems, and I was like, oh, okay, nothing happens. Literally nothing happens.
Oh yeah, we
Like
do
the only
that too.
systems
But,
that would have been affected were like old punch card systems, maybe.
yeah, but the thing is deep down, when you have like 12 people at a party, getting drunk and praying for the bomb to happen, praying for something to go wrong, so that way we could have entertainment. And it didn't, and we were sad.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
I get
it. We could have had an apocalypse, but IT saved us. Damn it. Oh well.
I don't know. Crafting, do you have any other questions that you want to ask? Because I know Jade's got a couple more, or one more.
Let me think about it. I
Okay.
was prepared to answer my question.
Real quick. Can I feed you a scenario real quick, and I can maybe help you with this a little bit better? Hold on. Let me pull up the script for this. Okay. So, there you are and you're in Pacifica, also known as Chara 3, in the Lyran Commonwealth. And they teach you how to battle, or how this battle mech works, and how you're good with small arms. And your dad is a hero by the name of Jeremiah. And all of a sudden, while you're in your mech, the Citadel comes under attack from the Star Empire of the Draconis Combine. Palace guards report, and then the Palace guards stop reporting. Barely escaping.
These fuckers. These
Yeah,
fuckers.
you have an opportunity to maybe leave with a Jenner. That's about the only mech you're going to get to carry. Are you familiar with Jenner's Crescent Hawk Inception or the Lyran Commonwealth?
You are a loser if you can't get the chameleon.
Okay, because that was the first version of the Post-Apocalypse I ever played. That's the start to BattleTech, the Crescent Hawk's Inception.
Inception. Yes.
Yeah, way back in the day. And you got a chance to play as this kid that you're trying to fit in your dad's shoes. And you get a battle mech eventually. But until then, it's like you're scrounging because your entire resource pile just got destroyed, obliterated. So it's very rough. And the training missions are a bitch. But you get a chance to earn a few C bills, and then the second section of the game kind of collapses it doesn't really collapse, but the second act of the game kind of collapses if you don't do well with the small arms training, then you're not going to get a mech. If you didn't escape with a mech, you're not getting a mech for at least a while. And so BattleTech gave that to us as a feeder in 1988, and it was a lot of fun. But if you ever get a chance to find an old emulator, that'd be one you want to try. If you like mech combat, I know you like Robotech, but I do stress you should try it someday. Kai,
Yes.
you lit up whenever I mentioned that.
Yeah.
Would that for you fit within post-apocalyptic?
Honestly, yes, because that's in a fashion with the way that game functions. Yes, because you're literally hunted. You have none of the support systems that you were used to. The entire structure of the world that you knew is gone. And while I would kind of call it a war, more of a war story, but I would very much put that under, because you're scavenging everything. You know, you're going to black market mechanics with parts, trying to fix things, fill holes, and keep functioning because you're scavenging every little thing you can as you're trying to make your way to the last part of the game, which is kind of trash, but it's great.
Okay. Jade, were you familiar with that, or is that before your time?
Probably before my time. I'm
Okay.
I'm not very familiar with it at all.
Okay. That and that's okay because this was in '88. I don't expect everybody to have the same
I was
that I had.
I was maybe 4 at that time. I mean, I was born before that, but not long before that.
I was running it on our 380 on our 286. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of a 90s kid.
Understandable. The only part
I
about
still
that
remember
game,
the world before the internet, but
I like the world before the internet. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, simpler time.
The only part about that game I hated was once you got to the end game, um, the final section is like just a like 10 or 12 puzzles, and you have to have luck and logic on your side.
Yeah, it's more luck than logic.
Yeah.
Mm.
If you're okay with that, it's fine. So, Jade, I'm going to let you have your question if you
Okay.
have one.
Yeah. This has to deal with the rise of ethical dilemmas during a post-apocalypse.
Uh-oh.
And so oftentimes things will arise that should challenge the ethics or morals of NPCs and PCs alike. How do you make compelling encounters that explore these themes? Or, do you encourage players to make moral decisions that impact the direction of the game? And if you do, how do you handle the consequences of their choices within the game world? Anyone like to start?
Whoever wants to start, go for it. I've got a theory on it, but I want to make sure before I hog about 3 or 4 minutes.
No, go ahead and hog it. I'm still thinking.
Okay, so like a moral dilemma that I would throw at players is that maybe you and your ramshackle airport bus with a quarter tank of fuel rumble onto a site where you're allowed in because they think you're either good people or they think they're going to steal from you. And when you get there and you park and you stage your bus, you're invited for drinks. Let's relax and celebrate that we've got some potential new friends here. But the headmaster at this location, you find out like there's about 30 adults here, but it's really like a school or more like an orphanage that was on crack cocaine. It's just a huge 500 kids school with like half the kids are still alive, and you realize there might be something wrong going on here, like the adults might be taking advantage of the kids, or something's just not right because some of the kids don't trust the people here and they're asking you to talk to them. And every adult here is like trying to shoo you away. Hey, let's go to the main hall where your drinks are at because we need to talk to you. And you find out that like the lady, she gives you the heebie-jeebies. If there's any psionics in the group, like they can definitely tell there's something afoot. There's some definite things going on in the background where you don't feel comfortable, and the safety of the kids keeps coming up in your head. Well, after you've had a few days there to investigate and discussing things, you witness some things firsthand. And would you want to try to liberate the kids from the current occupiers of this facility? Would you try to take it over and do something with them? Although you're probably not really apt to handle like 250 children. Go big or go home. But I would say like you definitely want to discuss with the group, what do you want to do? How do you want to address this situation? Because obviously if you leave, like they might not let you leave. Secondly, if you fight, you're at a disadvantage because there's like 30 of them and there's 6 of you at best. Or worse, if you join them, hoping you can take it down from the inside, like, do you really think that's going to happen? because you're getting the idea they have a lot of resources. And I would love to see that come to play at an RP. Because, like, okay, once you liberate these people here, you're responsible for them. What are you going to do? And I would love to see how my players would get into that. Now, Greg, I would not put this up to Greg, because Greg would be just like, I kill them. I kill the children. I don't need anybody like begging me to feed them. I don't want that. I want to survive. This is not part of the I survive by having 40 stepkids. I'm not going to have a stepkid. If I don't get a stepmom, I don't get stepkids. I can see Greg doing that. But how would you guys react to that? Because that's something, Jade, the moral quandary that I think here is like, are you going to rescue the kids? Are you going to take care of them? Are you going to try to ensure that this place survives as it is? Oh, by the way, you have 250 teenagers and preteens, and some of them do have skills or do have things that are relevant for this world. The majority of them do not, and require food and maintenance. I would love to see that. Maybe I'm wrong, Jade.
No, I think that's actually a great encounter, a great series of encounters.
That would be multi-night.
Mm-hmm. That would actually be a mini arc all its own of, what, based on what the players decide to do, what kind of decisions they make. That could be multiple sessions of trying to figure out, like, what do you do with this scenario? Like, do you stay there the one night and move along, or do you try to figure out the nuances of what's going on and either help, hurt, or solve the issue, or take it over?
I think I have a small variation on that one for the moral quandary. Because one of the things that I would often think about in post-apocalyptic is the simple fact that you don't have information. You're operating in a box of, you don't know what's going on. You haven't seen anybody, living sane or functional in days. And so you pull into what looks like a ruined, battered town, and then you're confronted by what sounds like a scream, it's like a scream, like some innocent, and you encounter another hostile group. There is no benefit that you're going to gain for spending what little ammo you have, possibly risking, as this other group of people who are chasing an innocent come into it. Your player characters, you've probably got better gear, better training than what probably is this band of barbarians. And so, do you spend what limited ammo? Do you risk getting losing people and losing resources? You're given a chance to leave, to go back out into the world. That the head of the other side is telling you to get the fuck out. This isn't your fight. This isn't your problem. Get the hell out. Get the hell away. And you're given the chance to run. Do you actually do it, or do you start a fight? You don't, and it's like, and definitely portray the fact of that this is you're probably about to annoy an organization, and you have to start, hopefully you've got a player who's sitting here in the back of their head going, okay, this is a patrol. They're able to put 30-something dudes on the field. That means they probably got a teeth to tail ratio of probably 5-10 to 1. So there's more people who are in the main body. Do we start a fight with a large group? There's maybe 5, 6, 8 of us. 8 of us, and potentially now looking at upwards to 180 to 200 of them. Do you start a fight to save one innocent, or do you back away and let the horrible deprivations of the end of the world happen to one more person, or do you actually do the right thing and risk what little valuable stuff you have left? That's an interesting moral dilemma that I could see throwing at players and seeing how they handle it.
Especially if one of them's a paladin type.
Yeah, who's going to do something stupid like start a firefight that nobody wants, or except for the paladin, and probably after one or two players get shot, they're going to be or dying. They're going to still think it was a good cause, because if you're not there to help the innocent, what the fuck are you living for? Because that's the thing. I want my players to make the hard choice. They can be pragmatic and asshole-ish and survivalist, or they can simply go, no, we're here to do the right thing. And you might be trading one of your good, skilled, good shooters who might actually be a good, hard, survivalist, and leaving them dead so you can save a child. But that might be what that leads to a cool moral quandary in a story that can radiate outward, because now you pick a fight with this large band of slavers and horrible people who are now going to be after you because you just killed some of their dudes. The game just changed. You're still in a post-apocalyptic, but now you're being hunted by something far larger than you, and it's like it makes it more like if you're used to the Mad Max Lord Humongous scenario, this is definitely Mad Max right now at that point. And careful, you might be going out to the on a mad run carrying a tanker truck full of sand. That might be your fate, being left on the side of the road. Congratulations.
Yeah, well said.
Very nice.
I had nothing. I had almost nothing but murder hobos. So when I did my post-apocalypses, so moral quandaries always ended up in kill everybody. And we pissed somebody off. Free supplies.
I mean, well, okay. So what kind of consequences do you put in place for that kind of behavior?
Well, now I would be a little more, little video game esque, where each encounter just gets more escalated until it's either you guys deal with the main problem or you're eventually going to die. But back when I was doing it, it's like, yeah, I've said this many times. I just did not have the balls to treat my players like I should have.
Don't feel bad. I have a player party on every other Saturday that I have kid gloves on, and it's not you. It's not your party, Crafting Gamer. It's the other one.
Yeah.
I've ran for these people for 4 years. Do I really want to throw it away on a TPK that they deserve?
Yes. I'm kidding. I mean, if it happens, it happens, though, right?
It happens. Exactly.
Like all characters, all living things die unless they ascend.
And that's something that recently, I've been watching the obituaries, and some of my favorite actors died last year. Some of my favorite writers are dying this year. This shit sucks. Getting older is overrated.
It is.
How you doing
Agreed.
tonight, 4-2?
I would argue that DMs can mostly be nice most of the time, but at the same time, players who will do the murder hobo nonsense get what's coming to them, because it's a situation of their own making, and you just have to be the kind of game master who reminds them of that. It's like, look, you chose this path. This is all you.
I was thinking about Sunday, seeing if I could find a copy of No Country for Old Men and streaming at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock if I could. But I don't know yet. But that's a really good movie. if you're discussing in a game problem like I have murder hobos, how do I deal with them? And you watch that movie, the answer's right there. Like, yeah, you might be a real badass, but you're staying in a seedy hotel in Eagle Pass, and all of a sudden the banditos arrive while you're in bed and you failed your perception checks to wake up. So when you are up trying to respond frantically to get to your weapon, go ahead, roll me a dexterity check or roll me an agility check, whatever it is. You blew it. Okay, well, they kick the door in, and then the second and third guy unload. One has a Russian SKS, and the other guy's got a 20 gauge shotgun.
Instant
the 20 gauge
lethality.
shotgun critically hit you. I'm sorry, you are now hamburger. And that's kind of how that movie is. I don't know if you guys have seen that before, but that movie does storytelling in the level that I've not seen ever in my life.
I have not seen it.
What?
It's good.
Nope, have not seen it. I don't watch a lot of films. I really don't. It's one of those things I don't really spend a lot of time doing.
Okay, never mind.
I I fill most of my time with crafting campaign stuff, with crafting my setting, or lately with work, and spending time with the wife.
I usually got a movie playing in the background. I'm not paying attention to it, or I am, but I'm working on other things while this movie's playing because I need noise. Otherwise, my brain goes weird.
Like I don't even really spend all that much time on YouTube either. Like I don't know. One of those things I fill my time with a lot of thinking, a lot of very active and direct thinking.
I understand that. News.
I actually get away from the gaming sometimes, and I'll go to like the Wi-Files Discord. I'll go in there and I'll paint, because when I'm in there painting, I'm not tabbing between tabs or trying to think of anything else. I'm just trying to get these figures finished.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be working so far. I'll show you the progress we've got for the year 2024. Nope, that's the wrong way. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but a lot of Urk-hai in there. And Hungar's Fig.
Yeah, admittedly, I haven't gotten that much painted yet, but part of that is the fact that a good chunk of my miniatures I'm only working on during this segment or during this show. Well, that's because I actually have ADHD, and I discovered from watching Bruce, gave me the idea. If I keep my hands busy, I can actually focus on what's being said here much easier than if I'm staring at a camera.
Weird War II, even kids move out, okay? At some point, you got to have someone to focus on. Your kids only keep you busy for 20 to 25 years. In a good world. In a bad world, your kids retain their bedroom and they move somebody else in and they have kids there. So you've got 2 generations in one bedroom that you don't want. Don't do that. I don't know. I don't think we've exhausted this by any means, because one, we're missing Connell. 2, we're missing Baron G-Rock. I haven't heard from Baron. I was hoping he would respond to me today. He did not.
I know he's got a lot of stuff going on in his personal life.
Yeah, he's got a lot of spinning plates, and I get it. He can't hang out here, but I was hoping at least get a 2-minute answer from him. Next week, do we want to talk about Post-Apocalypse for week 3, or do we want to change subjects?
I don't know. I think I'm pretty well exhausted on thoughts and questions about it. I mean, unless somebody comes up with some really really great questions about, how, like, what specifics we do for our post-apocalypse, but I think we've answered most of that in last week and this week.
Because I almost want to run a scenario where, like, okay, well, you guys learned how to survive together in the swamp of Everglades, Florida. Now, you've got a deal. Now you get a chance to deal with an urban setting as you're going back to see if your family's alive in the post-bomb future. And I would like to see how that would work, but I don't think that would entertain people for 2 hours. I think that would probably make people stutter away. Like this is the lowest stream I've ever done.
We also got started really late.
We got started late, and I didn't have anything set up. I got in late. Sorry, I'm not trying to make light of the fact that I do have one good viewer, World War II. It's nice. Thank you, sir, for being here.
And Soy-based Germany.
Soy-based Jeremy was here earlier. He is off at the moment.
Okay.
And that's okay. I'm not really worried about viewer count. I'm mentioning it for the fact that, like, usually we have about 5 to 7 in here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. That's fine by me. Actually, I prefer small curatable groups. But I think that it helps whenever people are entertained by what we have. And I think that getting you through a scenario to where you learn how to provide shelter for yourself and basically do the first act of the movie Band of the Hand, where the convicts are dropped off in the Everglades with a Native American, and he teaches them how to use a Bowie knife, and either they get it or they don't. And he's like, I've done this for the past 15 years, and you guys are the first ones that have actually passed this test.
And to weird World War II's question, there is your post-apocalypse always dystopian? I'm going to say no. It's not. Doesn't always have to be dystopian. Granted, my bleak world that I ran was dystopian, but in a setting of, like, let's say Bristol 1353, I'm not going to say that the world is dystopian. Just that one region, and maybe some of the surrounding regions are severely depopulated due to plague. The post-apocalypse is just the end of, it's the end of civilization as you know it until you make it anew. Like the end of the Roman Empire was very, very apocalyptic for the people who were of the Roman Empire when it ended. But they moved on. They figured out a way to pick up the pieces and move on eventually.
I don't want to say it's always just I am dystopian, but again, that comes down to how far after the end I'm running. Because sometimes I like to run with the idea that maybe the old world needed to go away, and that what was rebuilt afterwards is the better world that was wanted. After all, Star Trek is a post-apocalyptic world. The Earth did come to a nuclear end, and a better world came after it. After all, that was the whole point of First Contact. Your humanity's first step into becoming a warp-capable society happens in a post-apocalyptic world. And look what comes after that. If you follow the idea of a generational campaign after that, and that all of humanity after that is still remembering we nuked ourselves. The old world, the world before the nuclear bomb ended, we had wars of genetic engineering, nuclear war, and the collapse of civilization, and everyone's miserable. Let's build a better world after that. And that's so. No, not every. And I've run multiple apocalypses. and I've watched my players refine the world that they built afterwards a little bit differently, a little bit better than the world that collapsed the previous time. So they're taking notes on how did we fail last time? How can we build better this time? And inevitably, new problems creep up, and the world collapses again because this is high fantasy. This is a magical world. Bad guys have cool big explosions, and dragons are powerful and scary, especially when dragons can buy out your corporation in 3 minutes. It's not always dystopian, but dystopian usually leads into it.
Well, it's like Kai mentioned something earlier about the amount of time after apocalypse, and yet it can still be an post-apocalypse. I didn't think about it. That's kind of how my game is set up, like the game I'm working on. It takes place after there was a much greater society that basically destroyed themselves. And that's part of what you're exploring. And you have some ancient constructs, and where the term ancient artillery and ancient ships come from, and the ancient weapons, because there was a once superior people.
And doesn't that make some of the best?
Sorry.
I mean, doesn't that make some of the best things to go explore is the civilizations that fell and what comes after? Like,
yes,
even like, some of the fantasy games that I've played in over the years, Sword and Sorcery, like dungeons are really the remnants of a society that came before. It's the a dungeon is not necessarily a this well thought out place by some big bad guy. Sometimes it's a building that's been covered over by rock and debris from whatever age long expanse that has happened. Sometimes it's just an underground fortified defense installation instead of an actual true dungeon, if you can even call something such. So those places in the world that are old or ancient, that hold secrets to them, it's the secrets that interest me. It's like, okay, so who were the people who built it? Why did they build it? Why is it underground? Or if it's above ground, why is it on this cliff side? Why isn't it, at the top of a mountain? Well, did this mountain used to be here? Why is half the city down there and half the city up here? What happened?
I kind of like the idea of that the dungeon would be like the post-apocalyptic world. Hey, Janet, how you doing?
No, the more I hear everybody talk, the more I wish I had you guys as group players when I was younger.
You still can.
Yeah.
We're not dead yet, okay? So
there's white in the beard now, but I ain't dead yet.
Yeah. Just because I have to elevate my leg every day for a half-hour minimum doesn't mean I'm going away.
You too, huh? Yes.
Yeah, good night, sweetie. She's going to bed, it looks like. I don't like doing post-apocalyptic from the start. I like getting the players in and letting them get their first level or two. Like, have life proceed as normal. You go ahead and you level up. Go ahead and put points in something that you're going to take away later. Go ahead and do that. And then give them the apocalypse to live through. Give them hell. And make it hard to live through it. The actual events itself, like does the earth crack and swallow your base? Does the road get completely ripped apart and you driving there with your 79 Peterbilt with your German Shepherd in the passenger seat? Does he freak out and do you pull over only to lose your trailer as the road splits and takes it in the ditch? Do you keep your truck on the road? Make a driving check, maybe the kingpin separates. Maybe you lose your truck. I don't know yet. You got to roll. I like the ability to have the players go through the apocalypse because I want them to be most affected. I don't want them to be like, well, Bobby, we drew straws, and of all the vault dwellers, you're the one that you drew the shortest straw. So we're gonna send you out for the water chip. Now we're gonna do everything we can to make it to where you can come back here and life will be back to normal. You just need to go get us new water chip. There's a vault 78 kilometers, 78 clicks away from here. Just go in this other vault and grab their water chip. If they didn't survive, that's terrible, but we need that equipment. And you go ahead and do that, but there's complications. If you've ever played Fallout 1, there's complications. And they're wonderful story building complications. One of the best stories I've ever played through is Fallout 1. Probably number 2 would be Fallout Tactics. Arlie Ermy, I miss you. I just like the idea of letting the player experience the hell and the horror of living through an apocalypse themselves, because I want them to, like, okay, well, obviously the sky is very bright. What are you doing? I'm running to the ditch and I'm trying to cover my face. All right. And then let them know, like, in a couple days, like, hey, you're not feeling well. Maybe they stumble onto an AF base. Maybe they get, somebody checked them out. Well, you only have 100 rads. You're not completely dead, but you're going to have an interesting, shorter life than what you had before. And we're in a post-apocalypse. I think that would be more interesting than starting the game and, like, you're in a safe zone and you've been raised here all your life and all you know is the vault. No. Go ahead, Kai.
Actually, I think the way I would love to run one is have the end of the world be very much slow motion. Like, you get the first warning signs of the impending doom, and then let the players be part of something, and then slowly wield the slow grinding doom that's approaching towards you, and let the players try to build up what they're going to survive with. Give them complications along the way, Let them pick at character creation what their background is. Are you part of a corporation? Are you part of the government? Are you part of this? And then slow roll the apocalypse towards you, and let them see it. Like, let them piece together slowly how bad it's going. Let them fight to see how long they could keep things going. Like, do you panic? Do you run for the hills early? Do you fight to buy more time to see how long you can continue to, like, let them see that there is a faint hope that maybe you could avoid the oncoming disaster that's going to happen. And let them, or depending on your background, you're not given an option on this because, maybe you're part of a corporation or a bank or something powerful that's shadowy and corporate, where you get to do some things behind but unfortunately you don't get free reign because the board of directors care more about money, and you got to try to run past them, even though that that as soon as the bomb hits, as soon as the end of the world happens, money means nothing. But you got to convince people who believe that money does mean something. Or you might choose, well, I want to be part of the military. The military's got all the best guns and equipment, until you realize that, look who your chain of command is. Realize that your officer corps is a bunch of political weenies who got their job because they suck dick really, really well and care about sucking some politician's dick even more. And here you are at the bottom trying to, like, scam as much crap as you can because you realize that nobody in charge knows shit. Oh, fuck, what do I do? And then you throw as much crap you can in a bag, throw it over your fucking shoulder, and run for it when finally the chain of command collapses around you. Do you play law enforcement and try to maintain an edge for as long as you can until, well, once again, see your leaders are all weenies, and all you have is what point do you turn your back and run, and let them see let them see that slow rolling point of no one's coming for you. You have how much have you scrolled away? How much have you how loyal were you to the cause until finally the back breaks and the collapse happens? And do you fight how do you scam your get your family out if you've got a family, and then slowly show does your family handle it well? Does your wife just shoot herself or drug herself and goes I can't handle this and kills himself, and you got to fucking carry on afterwards? Do you watch your partner get shot by rioters? What point do you go, this world is dying? Do you continue to fight for a flag that's dying? How long do you last? And let that kind of story happen, and then run the actual end of the world, and then slowly show once all the chaos, the dust, once the fall happens, the chaos, the dust is risen, the society has caught fire and burnt, and you're now a survivor. How long do you last afterwards, and do you hold on to that little shred of hope of reestablishing a safe zone and rebuilding? Do you even maintain that as you watch the depravity of the collapse of civilization? I would want to run that. That's what I would want to do.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
I need a group to run this. But most of the people I run for won't. I wouldn't be able to handle that game. This is an adult game. I'm sorry. Also, it's late. I need to go.
Yeah,
It is getting late.
it's approaching the 10 o'clock hour Central Standard Time. World War II says most military units would fall apart once the realization there's no real reason to keep on other than for survival.
Most leaders find their loved ones.
To go find their loved ones or families and such.
Yes.
Yeah, most would break up. I get it.
You might have a few battle buddies who are going to clean together and go, fuck it, we're going together to go find to get home. But that's about it.
That's kind of a scary thought. It really is.
We're a professional mercenary army. And once the pay runs out, how long does the discipline last beyond that? It's not really. No one really signs up for patriotism anymore. So,
Kai,
yes.
You going to be doing anything on your own this week or no?
Saturday, our show.
Yep.
Late night.
Yep. After the game with Flady and Crafting Gamer, Connell, Janet, and Six Nations 31 Kings. Hopefully he's doing good. I haven't seen him all day.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing. I'm also getting ready to go and play a level 1 character again and go experience what someone new who wants to be like, I got an idea for a campaign. Fantastic. You're all level 1. God damn it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, dude.
Can we go back to our old game? No. Oh, I don't want to be level 1 again. I'm tired of level 1.
I feel the same way whenever I start Elder Scrolls.
Jade, are you going to be
Yes, sir.
putting anything out for us in the interwebs?
No, I don't have anything planned of my own content. Like I do have some ideas that I'd like to work on, but it's currently finding the time that's difficult. So this weekend is anniversary weekend for my wife and I. So I'm going to be spending time with her. Yeah, I'm going to be spending time with her. I also have game on Saturday. trying to figure out how I'm going to work that. I may not show up. I'll apologize to the game master because, again, anniversary weekend. But I'm also probably not going to be available for Gatekeepers next week. Something's come up for Wednesday that I may not be able to make it. So nothing for me this week.
That sucks. Crafting Gamer, any new Robotech videos or Palladium centric videos that are going to be on your channel?
Not this week. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure next week. I still got to make the video, but it'll be short. I've learned I'm better off making short videos every other week because YouTubing is not exactly what I expected. Mostly the editing.
I recommend that you just go in to do a live stream with 3 bullet points. Might want to try that.
If you've seen my unedited videos, you'd be like, okay, never mind.
Okay.
My reading is so bad, it looks like I'm purposely reading it 3 or 4 times.
There are tricks to help with that.
Fair enough. This week on it's the whole premise of the original Twilight 2000 system. We played the hell out of that in the 80s. That was a great system. That's foundational for some people, Kai included. This week we're going to be doing a alpha test group. The players will be trying to figure out if they have an in or if they can survive that encounter or what. We'll see what happens. Can we go up and see what their real estate up north is doing? That should be pretty interesting. Other than that, I like the idea of that campaign quite a bit. I love that system. I just like D100s and not playing Pathfinder. I'm sorry. Pathfinder is just way too much player friendly. Like it takes too many things out of the equation. Like, no, I want to run a survival game. Well, you can't because like I can buy a pallet of wheat for a copper. Oh, fuck you. Appreciate Kai being available for Saturday night. If anybody here wants to watch us Saturday, that'd be great. I know that some people don't want to watch live streams. Ours is pretty fun, I think. I have a blast.
Kai's also just fun to watch as a person. He has enjoyable energy.
I love Kai's energy. I love Kai's energy when you throw him game problems and let him work it out because he works out basically in front of you, which if you're a game master, it's like showing your work. Listening to him talk is like a kid showing their work on an algebra problem. It's great. So I think anybody that wants to see like the mind of a madman, I mean a game master, a very experienced game master that doesn't ever get a chance to flex that muscle, check it out. Please.
I try.
Twilight 2000 is a game that you should retire other games for. That's all I'm going to say. The first edition stuff. With that being said, we're going to bop out of here. It's been a lot of fun talking with my friends here. For those that are going to watch this on the rerun, know that we really appreciate you. For those that did watch us during the live stream, I wish I could give you a good cup of coffee and have you enjoy us for as long as we talk. Hopefully we entertained and we educate and we gave you some thought-provoking ideas for your own tables. And until next week, don't break your table.